So we are once again together for a Purdue Commercial AgCast conversation. I'm Todd Kuethe, professor in the department, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Chad Fiechter, also a professor in the department.
We've got an exciting conversation we're about to have.
And first time we're ever on location.
Yeah, we are now out of campus. We're not going to reveal, because I think our one listener might become a stalker, so I'm a little worried about saying exactly where we are. But we're somewhere in Indiana still. We're joined today by Brian Martin. Brian, would you introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Brian Martin, so a Northwest Indiana pig farmer, been native to the area, but raised pigs in many parts of the country, from Arizona to North Carolina in our history.
So as our listener knows, we recognize that they're probably trying to picture this conversation. So Chad and I always start by what celebrity people have told them. So for us, again, to remind our listener, Chad looks like Superman, or what was the other guy?
Lorenzo Lamas.
Young Lorenzo Lamas. I look like comedian Tom Segura. Or another one I've gotten is George from Seinfeld.
Okay.
So Brian, what celebrity have you been told you
I
look
see
like?
George in you, so it's a good comparison. Not quite as much facial hair.
Yeah, no, I used to, when I got that was before I could grow a beard. So
In the past, maybe less so as hair leaves with age, but Garth Brooks has been mine many times. So
that's
I can see it.
yeah. And I would waver. I like Garth Brooks' music, but there'd be some issues to talk about with Garth.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
He's popular.
I think part of it is because you're wearing a giant black cowboy hat and a 1990s Kicksbrook looking button-down shirt.
Yeah. And friends in low places, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good.
Good.
Yeah, that's a good song.
Well, as a friend of the podcast, this is definitely the lowest place you'll be. Actually, let's maybe start with, I think this is interesting,
Yeah.
how you guys know each other.
Oh, so I think the first time I only knew you in name because I was raising pigs that you produced. I think that was the first time.
Yeah, that's right. So it'd be in the early 2000s. Your family raised pigs for IPC.
That's
and
correct.
I assume maybe still does.
Yep.
And at that point, in fact, one of our farms was built with an IPC agreement, and we would have been raising the wean pig that went to the Fiechter farm.
That's right.
Yep.
So we got probably between 12 and 15 pound pigs.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And then our relationship did evolve. So then I worked with John Hook for a little while.
Right.
And John took me to your farm, and then I got firsthand experience
That's
being
right.
on the farm.
You were there for a number of weeks, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have been post-grad then, or undergrad?
Undergrad, I had just been done farming and was kind of in between grad school and farming. Was working with John for a little while.
Good time to learn all kinds of ag, for sure.
I feel like I learned so much.
Yeah.
Just exposure. The scale of your farm was very different than I was used to. So it was kind of a bigger, much bigger.
Yeah.
And a lot of different challenges.
Yeah. Well, we have done through our last 20 years, we do summer interns, which would have been around, and those are typically Purdue interns. Sometimes it's U of I because we're positioned in between the two schools. But I find through time that that's the most astounding thing to anyone that comes to a pig farm, and a sizable one, is nobody really appreciates the size and scope. And it's not that there's a lot of pigs, because it's whether you have 10 or you have 1,000, you do all the same jobs. It's just in a place where there's a lot more. So
Okay, so your family raised pigs. Like, how many generations has the Martin family raised pigs?
wonderful question. I am the 5th generation of Indiana farmers, because it goes back into the mid 1800s. So it'd be my multiple grandfather, William, he's homesteaded land near Logansport. And so at that time would have had a few livestock and land. We still own some of the land and have moved the pigs around through time. But I grew up walking out the back door to feed pigs before going to school, which can't find that much today.
So when I think of farm families, what I usually think of is geographically you don't move. So can you walk us through your family's own pigs in many different spots? How did that conversation start? When did it start? And why did you choose to think about owning pigs in other states?
Yeah, well, great question. Like most stories, there's no like magical moment that says, "Oh, here's where we're going." But so looking back on it, at 16, raised on a farm where it's within the range of your house, was also kind of lined up with a tough time in the farm economy. And through the 80s, my family had 600 sows and 2,000 acres, and through business decisions, at some point decided that it was best to sell the pig farm. So,
As a group, you decided.
that's right. And It
Okay.
would have been grandpa and dad and uncle.
Cool.
So I wasn't a decision maker in that, but it wasn't like an outright sale. What dad did is he convinced a local grain company called Kokomo Grain to get in the pig business, and they started a breeding stock company, which included our farm. So what I grew up on became a part of a breeding stock company. So he started that company in the 80s, and I worked in it in the 90s, and actually went to college at a little school south of Purdue called Wabash. No vision of being a pig farmer, not anti, but pre-law was my vision. And drove trucks, hauled pigs all through college, weekends, stayed connected, and came out of college and wasn't really up for law school, or didn't think that was a good choice at the moment, but chose to go to work at IPC, and that was the beginning of an industrial career. Point being, remained in the industry, relationships and people, whether it be my dad's, we developed a lot of relationships. A good example, starting at IPC, would have met John Hook from Bellston Milling, did a contract with them. So that relationship, John Hook has stayed in the industry. We interact and do business deals through time. So that was a wonderful place to start. And we knew within 3 years that working in a monster company, although a wonderful experience, our hope was to get back into farming, and found a way. We basically, in 1993, then bought the farm that my dad sold back from the company he sold it to, 0 money down, bought it on contract, and we started our pig farm there. And actually I kept industry jobs, or we did, my brother and I did. So jobs outside of the pig farm. So it was like a side gig to us. And we became parts of companies that ended up owning pigs, from Arizona to North Carolina through years, built that over years, and slowly but surely just built equity until in the late 2000s, it'd be like 2009, that we could sell our ownership in a really big company that we had acquired and develop an Indiana farm, which is what we do here today. So the short version of that is little bits and pieces that fit and make it work.
So, just in case we have listeners from outside of Indiana or even outside of the U.S. potentially, what does IPC stand for? That's what.
Oh, yeah.
A wonderful question.
Yes.
So Indiana Packers Company, it's a packing plant that is in Delphi, Indiana, originally owned by Central Soya and some foreign companies. Today it's owned by Mitsubishi. When it was built, and I worked there, it was processing 3,000 pigs per day. Today it processes 18,000 per day. So that's 1993 when I started.
So maybe deeper context, how big are pigs now that are going to IPC? How many truckloads is 18,000? Like how many semi-truckloads is 18,000 pigs?
So a truck today is 150 to 165. Can't do the math quickly.
I'll do it quick.
But many truckloads.
18,000, 155. It's 116. Because I feel like what you're saying is the pig industry, that we see today is very vertically integrated, where you have these packing plants who also come all the way down to the production of small pigs, fat pigs, trucking them back to the processing plant, and then retail operations.
Right.
But you were involved in that in the 80s.
Right.
So can you help us understand how the pig business has changed since then? Because I would say that's early, right? Like, was there many other, when your dad talked to Kokomo Grain about owning pigs, was there any other people doing that at the time?
Oh, no. I mean, the biggest change, and I'm sure this is true beyond pork, it's grain too, but the number of farms certainly decreases through time a lot. It's probably 1 out of 10 compared to 1980 would be my guess. You guys know that data, I'm sure. Indiana is definitely independent oriented, so farmers would think only in their realm and wouldn't think about potential partnerships out of just being independent folks. And I'll give credit to Dad and folks ahead of me as we think collaboratively. Here's a good example. I was 17. Dad went to his neighbor and said, I don't want to plant this year. Let's partner, and you provide this, I'll provide that, and we'll do it all together. Same idea as what we've done in pig farming through years is look for wonderful partners, grow in it, and then feed off of the strengths. And to answer your question, that isn't real prevalent in our world. There's a lot of pretty independent people.
Yeah. So is that just a personality thing? Was that your?
Oh, I think that's a piece of business acumen, right? So
Okay.
how people think. There's certainly value in having fewer people making decisions, but ultimately the strength of a group should prevail. Should bring more. Should be better. Yeah. All easier said than done. It's like
Yeah,
being,
sure.
ultimately partners are like being married, right? There's a lot of compromise and things that have to happen to make it go.
So yeah, I'm fascinated by this. So what we see in row crops is still quite a bit of independence.
Sure.
Versus relatively in pork production, that's not what we see. So what drove to this desire for partnership or specialization, right? Where you have these pieces of that supply chain that you specialize in. What do you think drove that? What did you see?
Well, I think the main thing, and this is true day to day. I look at our 30 years of doing this, and the difference between us and most others. I mean, everyone is looking for the next thing or an idea that is going to give us some edge to be better and win. Because if you stay where you are, I mean, ultimately most choose something else. So a part of it is the drive to see better tomorrow. Another part of it is, frankly, if you choose to stay in this business or in agriculture, you've got to move in order to succeed and retain. Because staying, like a good example would be raising, doing 30-inch rows of corn. People that may stay there may not be still doing it. Or a good pig example is in 2003, Smithfield, the biggest pig company on the planet still today, announced that they were going to take their breeding animals and take them out of stalls, which is a really old idea. And it was that was influenced by public opinion that animals needed more room. That decision has changed our industry through 25 years, and moved animals to loose sow housing, and that's been a big part of what we've done. So early adopters of that have seen opportunity.
So, kind of related question, Tom, because Chad mentioned specialization. So, as someone who is not as familiar with the swine industry, but when we do like extension events, or when I taught farm management, was another case, right, where you have a group that like love the science of it,
Yeah.
and as soon as we start talking about prices, they're out, right? Or we have people that really love the sort of like business side of it, and then they're just like, I don't really want to. Like some people listen to you talk all day about weeds, but they don't want to talk about prices, or they'll be like, oh, we love to think about hedging strategies and prices. Those are the students that we like the most, right? But I don't want to take chemistry, right? Like, or whatever, right? So, like, which part of the that do you follow? It sounds like you're more into sort of the strategy and business side of it versus, I assume you also then would have people that you work with that are like, what they care about are genetics or feed ratio. Like, where, like, are you into the science part of it, the business side? Where, like, which is the part that they don't have to pay you to think about?
Well, historically, my place in the industry has been oriented to the commodity side. Ultimately, I would say it is vision oriented. What I get charge out of, what we have enjoyed the most, and if look back through 30 years, it would be business strategy and vision. I would say that what we've seen the most success in has been, whether in our company or one shared, is we've done a lot of buying and selling of assets. For example, my wife, when we were raising kids, we were buyers of sheriff sales houses, fixed them, resold them. We've done that and enjoyed it. We've done similar with pigs. So we bought a pig farm that was owned by Tyson in North Carolina back in 2000. Basically remodeled it, fixed it, took something that was actually 50 years old and made it modern, still producing today, and then ended up, through time, ended up selling it and then taking those proceeds and putting it into Indiana pigs. So simple answer to your question is the trading is the fun part for me.
Okay, so when you think about the choices you made to sell assets, what influenced that decision, or what experience influenced that decision where likely your peers aren't doing the same thing, where they're keeping assets and holding them forever? Why did you choose to move on?
That's a great question. And like always, there's like no one driving force in it. Typically, there's going to be a set of circumstances that drive that. So a great example would be in talking about the farm in eastern North Carolina. That farm became a part of 4 others that were from Colorado to Iowa, and a company that we were 10% owners of, and then some other big companies were in it. Pig farm company named Hanor, Tri-Oak Foods, which is southeast Iowa.
Hanor's Nebraska?
It is based in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
But they have pigs in Oklahoma, North Carolina. They would be certainly in the top 10 in the nation in pig size, and are owned by the Koch brothers, so a big company. So we were, being 10% owners of that big company, it was a committee that was driving it.
Right.
And ultimately the answer was that company in the 2006-07 range was approached by a U.S. company that was based in China called AgFeed, and bought it. So the answer to your question in that particular case is opportunity. Looking back, would have probably been good to hold longer, but certainly came away from it with more than what we started. It's the same as selling land as it continues to rise, right? You take that and try to grow it somewhere else.
So I guess just totally selfish question then. So we work in extension and outreach, and especially talking about land, which is kind of my area, and Chad's farm management, farm financial management stuff. What should we be doing? What are you and your peers need more information on that you think we should do
to feed the industry, so to speak? That's a wonderful broad question in terms of, because it's evolved. What extension has done when I was young, or 30 years ago, would have been to provide technical expertise. And I know as consolidation occurs, extension obviously is taking a much different role, and the technical side of it really stays in the industry. Great point. The PRRS gene in pigs has just been FDA approved, right? So the technical side is so deep, and it's not that it's beyond extension, but industry's carrying that ball, right?
Well, and I think about it like, like when you talk about your dad or your grandpa, my vision is that, granted, I was not alive then, but like there were a lot of farmers that would have looked like that. So like extension could be just like, here's what you should plant, and that would be true for 80% of farmers.
Yeah.
Right. We're now with this, because there's also this big differentiation, right? So you would have the questions that you are asking and that you need information on might be relatively unique to you or a very small subset. Where, you know, if we think about what extension does, we often think about how do we reach the most people, right? So we're aiming at that like mode where they get a bunch of people, as opposed to like, oh, there's like 3 people that really need to know this. And that's where I think you're right. Like, sort of private industry sort of meets that need. But I'm always worried that like, we still got to meet something. So I always ask anytime I get a chance to talk to people.
Can you like broad overview of the current U.S. pig industry? How many people are kind of like key to that industry, and how many of them do you know personally?
Oh, well, that certainly is true. Part of consolidation is that industry becomes smaller and smaller. So the answer is that it has become small enough industry that if you name the top 40 companies, we all know those names, and would know someone in every company that exists out there, so it's have connections. So I mean, the network is smaller, and people know each other by reputation. So if need or desire information about why Christensen Farms does this, we can collaborate pretty easily, which is a really nice thing about that. And that probably connects people much differently than it did 30 years ago. But you know, going back to the extension question real quick, our industry generally today, biggest need is labor oriented, and through the last 10 years, and part of that is because the rural workforce is got a lot of pressure on it, unemployment's low, seems to be fewer people that truly want a job, and that's resulted in us becoming a lot more, the industry becoming a lot more active in immigrant workers, and these would be the visa that is used in our industry predominantly is TN visa, which is a college graduate could be from Eastern Europe, could be from Africa, could be from Mexico. We are 80% employed. Our employees are TN visas, which is a 3 to 5 year, and it puts you into a whole different process of finding people. The good thing is you're finding folks that are looking for opportunity, that want to come to work, that are leaving a place and seeing a broad horizon in front of them.
That's interesting. It sort of is a close correlation with what we do with our grad students, right? Because we're getting people from all over the world. And well, for us, like Purdue sort of hangs its name out there as like this great university, and then people sort of find us. But how do you have to find them, or is there just a place you can kind of be like, I got these jobs, and people other places in the world are? How do you find those people specifically? Like, what is sort of the task?
Absolutely. We started looking at it 5 years ago, and the simple answer is it is a political process, bureaucratic, which means that little Martin Farms in Northwest Indiana can't easily connect, and the answer is actually Hanor put us on to a law firm that they had used, and it's an immigration company, relationship oriented. So they will recruit, they will help you through the bureaucracy. So it's a 3-month process, and it was $6,000 per person, which is ominous. But when you look at what turnover costs you, that cost is small for a person that wants to be a part of something. That was the answer. That was the answer.
Well, and I think working with like students, I think that one of the biggest challenges I've seen, like in the ag sector, is most of our students are from a rural place. They love living in that rural place, but they don't necessarily want to go to a different rural place somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's like, oh, here's a great job, but it's in like rural Oklahoma, they're like, no, like I'll move back to my home county, which is maybe on paper the exact same as this one in Oklahoma, but I know all those people and that's who I hang out with. I don't necessarily want to move, but like, so you have to get people that, in some ways, it's easier to convince people to move from, I don't know, Eastern Europe or Africa than it is to move from the other side of Indiana.
Well, that's
Right.
definitely true. With our local folks and like Purdue interns with us, and we've been successful in seeing folks for the reason you just described. So a kid that comes from Eastern Indiana, Richmond, Indiana to Purdue and interns with us, we are a more comfortable spot. Sometimes, some folks are looking to go to LA or Florida or whatever, but that's certainly been the case. And it's true in the pig business. We end up in some cases trading employees between pig farms in our area, which is, it's somewhat competition, but we all know each other well, so we figure out how to make that work. There may be a reason that that a person wants to move from Linton, Indiana, to be with family that is near Lafayette. So it's a mix of much.
So you mentioned that you're now 80% TN visa.
Right.
How about production out of the sow farm? Is that the same, better? What?
I would say definitely there's some mixed results in that. I would say this, when we, over the course of 6 years, our turnover has moved from near 80% annually to 30%. And that comes with improved production. Of course, disease events can influence that to some extent, but no question, much more stable, which historically stable. That we focus a lot on the number of our folks of our team who exceed 1 year with us. We want that number to continually rise, and we've seen that be successful through time with them.
That's amazing. Because they're all doing highly technical tasks within the sow farm.
Yep, very specialized.
And so the more time they get and experience, probably the better that.
That's right. That's right. And we work hard at cross training so everyone sees the vision, understands across the system why and how, and what a victory really looks like.
Okay, so I feel like I got to ask him questions all day long about pig production, and I'm going to stop because, like, Todd, I think you have a great question for Brian to get into another part of his life.
Oh, yeah. So the way I know Brian is my neighbor, lives in my neighborhood. And I had a discussion with some neighbors, and they said, oh, Brian's down at the state fair. He gets to open the state fair because you were so pretend my listeners know anything. What was your role with the Pork Producers Association? Is that what the right name?
That's right. Yeah. So broad view of checkoff. So our industry, and it's government oriented, agrees to cut off a certain number of dollars per pig and commit to promoting and educating folks on the pork industry. And out of that comes, in Indiana, the state organization is Indiana Pork, which has a board of directors, which is elected annually. I was fortunate to serve, I think, 12 or 13 years in that group. And ultimately what that group's doing is taking the dollars that come from pigs and then guiding it in promoting. And so their biggest event each year is an opening day for the Indiana State Fair, which is 6 a.m. first day. It's like 400 people. Our governor is always there. Typically, the U.S. senators are there and other politicians. So it's a great connection of the country people to the city people. And what Todd is mentioning is, so the 2 years that I was president, part of it is to open the fair and interact with the group, which was really fun and a great experience for a hick from northern Indiana.
So that's a good point. Part of that promotion is like that sort of like generic eating pork, not for a specific company or a specific
what's the
premium
current
item, right?
What's the current marketing slogan
For
for pork?
oh, you mean like the other white meat?
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's not coming to my mind.
Well, there was was We Care. Was that a
We-
slogan or was that just a campaign?
We Care is and was
Okay.
a program for essentially quality assurance. So
Okay.
it's us assuring the proper and appropriate ways to do our business.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but so there would have been like a consumer demand. Of,
Right.
Are they actually taking care of these animals? And so they would have sort of a generic campaign for like, oh, we do care, we take care of it. Like, eat this pork, right? But then also part of it is like the sort of advocating policy on behalf of the pork for farmers around the country or around the state, right? And so that's what one of the things that this, like, you mentioned a governor and that being there, right? Is like they're also like, oh, we want to tell them like, oh, we're employing these great people, our business is growing, and we're increasing the tax base in Indiana, what have you, right? And so I think that's my neighbors didn't understand. They think of the state fair as like tilt-a-whirls and corn dogs, right? And I was like, no, this is like a major political event that they're advocating for a constituency of Indiana with the elected leaders. The elected leaders like it because you guys all are like, we'll just come to your,
Right.
we'll come near
Yeah.
where you are, and you can meet with us all at once. Not to mention the delicious breakfast you'll have featuring pork, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of the governor,
Yes.
at the opening ceremony, how much did you feel like he wanted to hear from you? I'm not trying to like throw him under the bus,
Sure.
but like in this sort of political process where commodity groups get the chance to interact with the governor, how much did you feel like there was an openness to, I want to understand kind of what are your problems, what would be driving the way you think about the world?
Yeah.
I think versus here's my chance to be able to tell this group something.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Brian, let me tell you how great I
How much
am.
do you suspect it would be listening to the constituency versus like here's another group I can tell about whatever my platform is.
Yeah,
right now.
certainly. So in my 12 or 14 years around Indiana pork, so this precedes the couple years of being president, there was a couple different governors, actually three. Certainly, one of those is Mitch Daniels, and Mitch, very unique person in his scope and his willingness to hear and listen. Certainly, when he rode his Harley Davidson into that event, the years that he came,
Yeah.
which was always cool.
Very cool.
He was there to more than just glad hand. He was there to connect and have some depth to conversation. And certainly not policy making, but he was there to hear and look for opportunities to collaborate. Holcomb just wasn't the same kind of person, but
Yeah.
the organization of the event and the people that are involved, there certainly there were, and there are things that when you watch pork's influence on the state house in Indiana compared to other states, it stands out through the years, meaning that the ag efforts end up carrying a lot more weight than certainly it does in Illinois, where things may be a little different. Or I've spent time in Colorado, and that is a night and day view. So came to appreciate the politics of agriculture in this state and its ability. It's not necessarily gets its way, but it's heard.
Well, how much do you, when you're making those like business decisions across multiple state lines, do you think about the policy environment in the state?
That's a good question.
Because obviously you mentioned like labor would be one thing you'd be concerned with, right? But then also just literally physically moving stuff. Like, can I put pigs here? Can I get the feed that they need? But then there's also this sort of policy dimension, right? If like it seems like everybody in ag has opinions of California state policy,
Yeah.
even if they live in Maine, they'll tell you, right? So like, how much are you thinking about the policy environment state to state?
Oh, it's a significant factor in terms of industry's choices of where you go, why you go, what things are worth. So our time in Colorado, this would be in the late 90s, early 2000s. There was a clear influence, and this was from bureaucracy and the environmental approach of the state of Colorado to ag, and it wasn't exclusive to pigs. It would have been to beef and feedlots. The fact is that similar to Illinois, for example. Chicago sets a lot of policy for Illinois. Denver sets a lot of policy for Colorado. And the country, the rural areas, would look at some of those things differently. So what the outcome of it is, it's more difficult to permit and operate a pig farm in Colorado than it is in a Midwestern state. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the outcome ends up being that there aren't more pigs in Colorado. Maybe there are in Indiana. And we work hard at understanding our spot in terms of operating and making it work, and comply with the rules. So the simple answer to that question is it will bring more agriculture to Indiana, a friendly environment. Yeah.
Is that why you specifically chose to consolidate back here, your raising efforts?
It would have been a piece of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Wouldn't say it's in the top two.
Okay.
It would have been family oriented and opportunity oriented, for the choice to be in Indiana. Also, for us, a big choice was we were 10% of a big company, and a chance to drive a little more of our own show was probably a leading factor in that, besides opportunity.
I also suspect Brian would gladly move his whole business to a different state if they also moved Mackey Arena and
indeed.
Purdue basketball to that state.
Yeah, no question. That's been a huge benefit. What a good timing.
Oh.
And hopefully 25 is going to be the year for us.
Did you know that he's going to go on sabbatical?
I did not.
In January. And I'm going to put it on the podcast so we have record that he has offered me his season tickets. And January,
I'll put this on the record.
Okay.
So it's on the record.
Yeah.
Which is what I told Chad was this is my mix of similar to running a fork business, a mix of like honoring our friendship, but also the economic realities, which is I said, I will sell you my tickets at the cost I paid for them, as long as you or somebody you care about is in those seats.
Yep.
But if you sell them on the open market,
I like this.
I get half of whatever additional revenue there is.
either way,
Very fair.
I'll take it both ways.
No, I think
Yeah.
that's me demonstrating both our respect for our friendship and professional relationship, but also the economic realities
This is a
of like,
beautiful moment.
I don't
It
want
really
you to,
is.
I don't
Yeah.
want you to rip me off.
Yeah.
But I also, if there's money to be made, if it's going to be like, well,
Yeah.
these are going for $4,000 a seat, they're like,
Yeah,
cool.
then we'll-
I just
right.
don't want Chad to get that full $4,000.
That's
I
fair.
want,
That's fair.
I want half of whatever the additional revenue.
So I
it's
think
on the record.
I think we would be remiss as professors if we didn't talk about sort of students and thinking about, as you think about the industry and people who would either be interested in working on a hog farm or potentially owning a hog farm in the future. What advice would you give them, or how would you suggest that they go about sort of the next few years as they're thinking about the industry?
Yeah, so I would say, having over the course of several years of working both with high school oriented kids or college graduates, we've had a lot of pre-vet folks that have interacted. I've seen a large percentage of those folks that find their comfort spot in what they want to look for and what they want to do by experiencing a broad spectrum of things. So I guess ultimately I'm saying diverse internships for kids while they're in school, and taking opportunities to establish as many and broad relationships as they can. So knowing lots of people, I think it's wonderful that Purdue does job fairs. I think it's twice a year now. And so obviously opportunity to be exposed to big industry, from drug companies to packing companies to production companies, so that there's plenty of diverse opportunity to meet people, set up different experiences, and then find the one that clicks or the ones that click and go do it. Like, I have a nephew who is a Purdue sophomore currently, and he's done that. He is interned with Indiana, the Keystone Co-op.
Oh, cool.
He this year is with United Feeds. He also comes out on evenings and weekends and helps us out. I just text him last night our diets, because I think he's an ag business major at Purdue, and so we interact frequently about how those things fit in our industry. Yeah, so,
That's cool.
yeah, meeting people. Ultimately, I think our success has been the more people you know, the more you learn. There's just so many ways. There's an infinite number of ways to do what we do.
Well,
And-
I'm glad you shared that, because I think there's a lot of people that sort of tell students and younger people to like specialize. Where they, as an analogy, like my kids in middle school are already been told, like, well, if you're going to play a sport, pick your sport now, because like if you're going to get on the baseball team, you've got to be great at baseball from day one, right? And I always push back of like, no, I think the diversity is what actually gives you an understanding and appreciation for when you are specialized, how that fits into the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's right. Certainly, in farming, it is a diverse activity inherently, right? I've learned to weld, I've learned to drive a truck to California, I've learned to deal with a banker that's going to loan us $20 million. That skill, or the ability to flex and be versatile, is critical, and it's all about knowing people and understanding their perspectives and ways of doing things.
You just teed this up. So I teach an advanced farm management class, and I'm really big on I got to have like a vision for the why before I can do anything well. It seems to be not purposeful. It just seems like that's what has been. So can you help me think about why is there a specific class that we teach people about managing a farm relative to we could just send them to the business school and general sort of business management training? Can you think of things that would distinctly mark farm management from other things you've experienced?
Interesting question. And you're right, it lends into the fact that whatever kind of farmer, chicken to pig to row crop, and I think back to being 12 years old, the diversity of skills that you end up touching, from electrical to becoming a lawyer, that's what was appealing and drew me. That's not going to draw everybody. There's certainly folks that are going to want a more comfortable box. No box fit me. And I didn't know that when I was 12, but we figured it out through a lot of time and experience and watching other folks do it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's
So-
a great answer.
I'll end with the lightning round as is custom.
Oh, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
This
So
ought to
these,
be good.
Yeah.
so these are lightning round questions. So you're supposed to answer quickly, just the first thing that comes to mind. The first one, what is the most underappreciated way to eat pork?
Ooh, that is so good.
I think you both know the answer because you would be considering. This is my answer: is basically a pork chop ordered at a restaurant typically is overdone, and I'm passionate about that. And if you have a dialogue, there's still places that say it needs to be cooked to 160 or
Yeah.
whatever, and that is a disservice to what we do, because it is like dry chicken. You prefer something that's tender, moist. Yeah, my simple answer.
Well, and I think I do agree the pork chop is underappreciated.
So I also think tenderloins are underappreciated. Like the cost of the premium cut of meat from a pig gets sold at Kroger sometimes like it's like a fire sale. It's like, please take these.
As a whole tenderloin cooked as a thing and sliced off of, not the pounded out and then fried.
Correct. No. The like
Right, the
you
real
can
tenderloin.
you can really make that a nice. That's
Okay, so my other favorite lightning round question: the last time you had trouble sleeping because you were thinking about something from work, what were you thinking about?
It would be certainly disease oriented. In other words, biggest risk in our business is that our pigs aren't doing well, that they get a virus, and 80% of our angst is oriented to being better at avoiding it or addressing why we didn't.
Okay, and then the last lightning round question, which is one of my favorites. If you had a time machine, but you could only use it for work to get better at your job, when are you going to with your time machine?
You know, I probably would just go back into the 60s or 70s as a lover of history, for the opportunity to help speed up the process, be better, faster.
I like
Man,
it.
that's really good.
That's so good.
Brian, thanks so much
Thank
for,
you guys.
for
Fun.
taking the time and talking about a wide-ranging politics and pork.
Yeah, and thanks to both of our listeners for
You have a
tuning in and
third now.
sticking with us.